Hello viewers and welcome to Warthunder. So, as you might imagine, today we're going to be taking a look at aiming, more so the idea of leading targets and really what the thought process is going behind it. Because like what I feel like going on, what I feel like is going on right now, is that a lot of people, myself included, are having troubles with this whole idea of leading targets. Not necessarily because it's a hard thing to do, but more so because it's the idea behind it is something that people don't necessarily have a good grasp on. So with that sort of said, I wanted to do a video covering really how the thought process that's going behind leading is functioning, and more so, I mean, what are some concrete ways that we can improve it. So the game has just begun here. We're playing one of the domination maps, so this will give us plenty of air targets, plenty of fighter air targets too, and figured we might as well just gain some altitude here, see what we can pick off, and I'll talk a little bit about the primary, like, little myths about aiming that I find. One of them is that inside the arcade mode here, you'll have a little lead indicator, and a lot of people seem to like to shoot for that. The problem behind it is that if you aim exclusively for that little marker, you tend to run into problems, mainly because that marker only says where the absolute center of mass is on the enemy plane. And with that said, you'll be hitting the or rather the least valuable portion on the plane, and the most heavily armored portion on the plane as well. So that is one thing that I want to clear up. And the other thing is that if you are successful in predicting where the enemy plane is, where your own is, and how the two will react, chances are is burst firing isn't necessarily required. It'd be much better to actually put in a full volley of shots onto your opponent rather than, going all willy-nilly and burst firing. So that's another thing. A portion of the game that doesn't necessarily depend on skill, but more so just the I suppose cash is that if you actually buy into the game's cruise and put a few points in the weapon maintenance section, you'll be able to fire your guns for a much longer period of time. Something that I found tremendously helpful. Something that I would consider equally as important as the weapon reloading skill, which obviously makes your guns reload faster. So, with those things cleared up, I want to give you guys a few clear demonstrations of the idea of aiming or leading and how I like to do it. The main thing that I like to do is that I like to first zoom in, take a look at how the enemy plane is reacting, whether it's flying, say, like this, doing a small turn, flying flat in one direction, or just how the plane is generally flying just in general. And then, from there, I like to get into the actual shooting and the killing of the enemy plane. So, what I mean by that is, I typically think of the zoomed in feature as just a way to check up on enemy planes. Some people see it as like their little combat scope of sorts, where they like to use that solely as their fighting perspective, pretty much. And the problem behind that is it really narrows down your vision. It puts more emphasis on that little lead indicator than you probably should, and going from there, it doesn't give you a good picture of where your own plane is heading, because like take this, look at this, we can see the little cockpit and a bit of our propeller, but that's about it. The important thing about seeing your own plane and how it's performing in conjunction with the enemy's plane, in my opinion, is that the primary thing about aiming is that you want to predict how the enemy plane is flying, but furthermore, you want to figure out how your plane is going right now and how you can adjust it to keep it continually on target. So let's see what we can do. There's quite a few good targets over here. Yeah, that plane's already dead. So another thing that I want to do is that I want to aim slightly ahead of that indicator, and the reason I want to do that is because that is, there's a very large gap between how far you can actually hit while this being in front of that indicator, as well as how much damage it actually causes. Another thing is that, I mean, if as soon as you get a feel for where your plane is heading, how the guns are facing, you don't even have to wait for that lead indicator to come up. Like in that scenario, just right there against that plane, I was able to bank a few shots off. One of them so happened to be a critical hit, which I got really lucky, and that actually sent the plane down, which netted me a kill. So, one of the things about just the leading indicator is that there's a good, I would say, like a centimeter zone where any bullets will actually hit where if you just shoot in front of that indicator by about a good centimeter or so, it'll actually hit far more than what shooting directly at that indicator would do. I'm flying the German plane right now, so these things should actually be in high altitude. So right now my plane is abysmally slow. I'm most likely very, very unagile, immaneuverable would be the term I would use. So, just a demonstration that we're coming up against this Dio. I want to aim in front of it, and I want to get that lead indicator so it spawns slightly behind me. And right here, you'll see that I'm hitting it despite shooting way more in the front of the enemy. And I'm just really just going to peck into this guy. And again, not really going to use that lead indicator aside from giving us a idea of where these bullets are going to hit. That's going to send him down, and something is probably going to chase me in the very near future. And again, really the process just continues. So this guy's going to go for a head-on, and that's fine with me. I'll try to pecker him like that. Still one guy on our tail, and hopefully some nice people from the airfield will help us out. There they are. And yeah, the process just really continues from there. A few tips about just trying to stay in front of that lead indicator. There's a few things that you can do. I want to land my plane and get my plane healed right now, but it's going to be a stretch with all of these people behind me. One of the things about keeping in front of that indicator is that if you do this trick where I just sort of zoom into enemies. Yeah, and when you get a good feel of your plane, you can do that where even if your opponent gets slightly in front of you, you should be able to get a few shots off on them. And sometimes you'll take them down like that, but I got lucky there again. Some of the tricks with aiming is that that leading is that if you do that little zoom in, great, you'll be able to figure out where the enemy plane is heading, and with that you'll be able to just predict in advance to when that little lead indicator changes, giving you a great advantage in actually scoring off a few hits, which is one thing. The other thing is that with that little indicator, the reason you want to keep in front of it, another reason why you want to keep in front of it is that as the enemy plane flies, you'll be able to shoot. The indicator will come gradually closer to your plane's aiming location, giving you even more shots onto the opponent, onto your opponent. So that is one thing. I apologize for all of the stoppages in words. I suppose I'm trying to. Well, I'd like to land my plane right now, but there's just way too many things around this airfield for that to be possible. So, again, just one of the key things is that you really want to keep in front of that indicator. And again, I'll show you what I mean by keeping in front of it, so that the opponent, so your opponent's plane will just sort of slip into the indicator. It's where your targeting reticule will just slide into it, inherently giving you a few shots. So, I feel like that is pretty much aiming. I'll do another video to show some more points and I suppose a few more examples of it. But I hope you guys learned something inside this video. I'm sure there are plenty more YouTube people who do videos on this, and I'd recommend that you guys go check those out as well. Anyhow, I'll see you guys in a little bit, I suppose.